who ultimately are fighting for super heavyweight glory. So, once again, a very good afternoon to you, and David, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
So, on we go, and it's Pavel Nidek for Poland to get us underway here. Well, welcome back. Apologies for that. We just lost contact with you, I believe. Pavel Nidek here on the opening lift, 182 kilos for this very experienced Pole, 32 years of age. Nidek, who's yet to win a major, either at European or world level. He's come close on a couple of times.
I think the trouble with Nidek is that he's very, very good in the clean and jerk. He's been as high as 250. And he's brought his snatch up in recent years, but still not enough to really feature as an overall contender.
And the bar going to 185, and just to whet your appetite, 213 is the world record of Hossein Rezazadeh for the snatch, 263 for the clean and jerk, total of 472.5. That's the overall world record. Obviously, we'd love to see him close to that. I have to say, a couple of years ago in Vancouver, the last World Championships, he really wasn't pushed that hard, and he managed to win it with about, I think it was 457, which was extremely modest. So Kolokoltsev for 185 kilos. And this should be pretty comfortable for this man, who weighed in today at 121 kilos, which is just about on par for what he usually weighs. Yeah, the first bit was the nervous bit, then he had the confidence to drive up.
Yeah, it's not a perfect lift, but it's good enough. Score on the board. So these men already lifting in excess of 400 pounds in the very early stage of this competition, for those of you who still like to work in old money.
There was a big group earlier today. Dimitrios Papagadidis of Greece was the best of the bunch, totaled up 411, which he achieved with a snatch lift of 185 and a clean and jerk of 226. So now Egypt, Ehsan Mohammed, 12th in the world in Vancouver in 2003, the same year, incidentally, that he won the Junior Worlds with a total of 405 kilos. And this is the, in terms of age, the baby of the class at 19. But not in terms of weight, 148.56 kilos of him.
Well, it's not strength, it's technique on that occasion. Just taking the shoulders back a little bit too far at the top of the pull, and just putting that backward momentum on the bar. The idea, of course, is to pull it straight up and then sit straight under it, and the temptation at the top of the pull is to lean, because it gives you that sort of little bit extra. But of course, if you do that, that's exactly what happens.
Can you imagine what it would be like, David, to, you know, at the right time of year, in the right conditions, maybe in the early evening with the sun going down against the pyramids, or, you know, against some of those fantastic ancient
backdrops,
Egyptian backdrops, to have a super heavyweight competition or a weightlifting competition in an amphitheater with the audience all around,
sort of Colosseum type, introduce all the athletes, have a proper announcer.
Wouldn't that just be so good?
I think it's what the sport needs. introduce the athletes.
But I just think, you know, sort of just in that setting, in that sort of classic setting where everybody's very close, and these men and the women, you know, they're like gladiators, you know.
What would be good, actually, would be to have perhaps the smallest and the largest, so the sort of David and Goliath type competitions.
So on we go to Vladimir Glushko, 187 kilos on the bar. But this man who was 8th in Europe, and he's picking up 2 kilos more than what he finished with in Europe as his starter. So maybe the 29-year-old Russian. Well, that didn't get anywhere near where it needed to get.
No, it didn't get enough height on the bar to fix it on. So perhaps being a little bit ambitious as an opener anyway.
Well, what's I think is quite interesting, David, is that Scerbatihs, who's an old warhorse, and Rezazadeh, the defending champion, and also Jabba of Qatar, all 3 of those men entered a total of 450, and they look to be the main protagonists. But, you know, anything can happen. So the most important thing for these men is to get the lifts in. So Nidek taking a 5-kilo increment here. And as you say, this is 187. He did 190 in Athens, so he's getting closer to his previous best marks. And technically, that's great.
Yes, this really is the lift that he needs to work on if he's going to ever really be a contender on the overall. He's really got to bring this up, and to be fair, in recent years he has done. He's gradually sort of creeping up on the snatch.
Yeah, a couple of times in Europe he's finished as runner-up, but at world level, Olympic level, 6th, 7th, which is very respectable. But it's just must be also so frustrating to be, you know, to be facing, like in his time, you know, the likes of Chemurkin and now Hossein Rezazadeh.
Well, I think the thing about the snatch lift is that it's about speed, technique as well as strength, whereas the clean and jerk you can kind of get away with just being really, really strong, and he's obviously an extremely strong man. He's just lacking in that sort of power phase, that speed strength phase.
But that's a recovery there for Glushko. So gets 187, but of course now having used 2 of his 3 lives in this first half of the competition. And a bit more buzz around the sports hall today, as you often get with the super heavyweights. I don't know what your competition of the week is. Depends how this unfolds, but I'm still going to nominate as competition of the week the fight between the Chinese woman Liu Xunghong and Zabolotnaya and Podobedova of Russia in the women's 75 as the best championship fight. So
that was probably the best women's competition in terms of, yeah, the fact that there were 3 women there who sadly should have all won, really. I mean, each one of them deserved to win, and obviously there can only be one winner. But I mean, how many times did the world record go?
Yeah, I think.
How many times did the lead change hand? I mean, it was a great women's competition to watch.
Dynamite competition, and certainly for me, overall, the women have taken the major honours in terms of performance this week. But there's still a chance for the big boys. Of course, everybody's hoping that one day Rezazadeh arrives in the mood to try and push for 500. Magic total of kilos, but 472.5 to 500 is a long way.
Oh yeah, even for a man of that size, we're talking huge jump.
Kolokoltsev runs into trouble, the Ukrainian.
No, I'm not surprised. His first attempt on 185 was to the limit, so that lift of 189 is as being ambitious.
He does have 195 in his record book, so he's been here and beyond.
Yes, unfortunately, as with all sports, there's so many factors that can affect your performance. You can be injured in training, you could have been ill, or you could just be having a bad day. I mean, it happens, doesn't it?
Interesting little question in from Chris down in Exeter in Devon. How do all the various weightlifting disciplines, such as bodybuilding, world's strongest man, and this style of weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, compare to each other? And which do you feel, David, out of all of these styles, actually delivers the strongest man or the strongest woman? Interesting question.
Well, it's a good question, yeah. And you know, I mean, obviously, I've got a. You expect me to say weightlifting, but the reality is, if you're just talking about pure strength, it's got to be strongest man or indeed powerlifting. If you're talking about speed strength, which is what we're looking at here, these men are moving these weights very, very fast. So this isn't just about strength. This is about, you can't just lift that bar off the floor slowly. You've got to move it at speed if you're going to get it overhead. Then I would say the weightlifters are the best. So the weightlifters are the most powerful. Powerlifters, strongest men are the strongest. And then bodybuilding. Well, bodybuilding's something different. Bodybuilding, don't get me wrong, bodybuilders are incredibly strong. But that's not their goal. Their goal is to get on the stage and look the best in terms of definition and symmetry. And one of the kind of ironies about bodybuilding actually is that when a bodybuilder is considered in his or her best condition, i.e. when they go onto the pose, they're actually at their weakest, because they've spent weeks and weeks dieting to lose every you know, last ounce of fat, and they've dehydrated before they go up there. So generally bodybuilders are stronger in the off season, but they're all strong athletes. But in answer to your question, I would say powerlifters, strong men, got the edge on the strength. Weightlifters got the edge on the speed, strength, the power. And bodybuilders, well, bodybuilders are strong people.
Good answer. Thanks, well. Thanks, Chris. I hope that gives you a view. As you saw there, Kolokotsev bombing out on 189, but he does have 185, so he still has the chance for a total. And now back to Ehsan Mohammed for Egypt.
Yeah, interesting character. Missed 185 because he leaned back on the weight, so decided that it was technical, and he doesn't want to waste his time. Again, taking a 5-kilo jump to 190, and unfortunately made exactly the same mistake.
And now puts himself on extra pressure, because I think he's going to have to follow himself here. It would be foolish. 190, you know, he is young, and so it's no surprise to me that he's, you know, moving up and trying the bigger weights.
Well, I think the only consolation is that he did exactly the same with that as he did with the 185. So in theory, if it had been 185, he'd have done exactly the same. So, you know, the fact that it was 190 really makes no difference, because it wasn't as if he wasn't able to get the bar to arm's length. So he's just going to have to go back. His coaches are going to have to tell him to stand up with the weight rather than lean back on it.
So Pavel Nidek looking for 3 out of 3. Vladimir Glushko, president of the European Weightlifting Federation, in the audience. Like a lot of people, that Pavel will have a good competition here, because it hasn't been too joyful for the Polish contingent this week.
Well, I think this is right on his personal best, if memory serves me correctly. And that's a shame, because he would have wanted to stay as close as he possibly could to the leaders.
Yeah, when he did the 190, which was in the Olympics, he followed up with a 240, gave him a 430, which is just about, as a total, 430. It's just about as good as he gets.
So he's kind of there or thereabouts today, isn't he?
Yeah, he looks okay, which means that, you know, maybe we're going to see, you know, better than 240 in the clean and jerk. Hope so. Be nice if we can. But now we've got to hope that this man can keep his challenge alive. But you can just going back to what we were talking about a few moments earlier, it'd be wonderful, wouldn't it? Out in Egypt in the desert, light fading and floodlights, and, you know, as you said, the Colosseum atmosphere, and it's sort of made for weight.
Well, it's made for it, yeah. And I think maybe
instead of these sort of rather antiseptic sports halls, where it's
yeah, you need to create an environment and an atmosphere to make it more exciting for the spectators' point of view as well.
Yeah,
you need to make it more entertaining.
Yeah. Come on, come on, come on, come on!
Well, he just manages to hold on to it. In a way, I suppose the super heavyweight. I mean, look what wrestling did. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't into the sort of world, wrestling federation, but I mean, I remember when wrestling used to be, sort of fat guys in fighting in the corn exchange, and old ladies with handbags sort of. And they've taken it and they've made it into something that is a huge thing on television now.
Except
just through marketing.
Except for the fact that it has a large amount of choreography and a few other things. At least what these guys are doing.
Oh, at least it's real. But yeah, but maybe we need something in the middle. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we do some choreography and some people drop some weights and others pick them up when we have them fighting on stage and that kind of thing. No, I'm just suggesting, like you, that somebody takes it and does something a bit different with it.
So Glushko going for 192. It's not been a good first half for him. He's left on 187.
Was bronze medal winner in this year's European Championship.
So early days in this men's super heavyweight. The big guns yet to come out. Just to give you a little idea, Chigishev, who I think is a very good lifter if he gets it all right. Could be very interesting, the Russian, who's looking for a total of 445, which is only 5 kilos below the big three. But talking of big, well, Ashot Danielin, representing Armenia, looking for a total of 445 as well. 167 kilos. Nobody weighs more than he today.
He's been struggling in recent years, though.
They got a bronze medal in the Europeans this year, but no total in the Olympics. The World Championships pretty modest, 430. I mean, he at his very best, and
he must have done around 457, I would have thought.
He has, but that's all of 5 years ago in Sofia at the Europeans. And of course he was disqualified out of the Sydney Olympics for being a bad boy, and he lifted 465 then. So yeah, you're right, David, those days 457, 460, they're now 5 years behind him. Ranked 4th in the world coming into these championships.
There's 26 stone is his rough body weight.
Chigishev is ranked 3rd. Scerbatihs of Latvia ranked 2nd, and of course Rezazadeh, who won the Asian Championships this year with a 460, a 200 and a 260. Now that's a few weeks ago, but if that was a tune-up for the Worlds, and he does 460 in the Asian Championships, maybe something around the world record marks are on. You never know.
But it must be nice to see the top men all on form. So, as opposed to a sort of Rezazadeh walkover.
We don't want to see we don't want to see what we had in Vancouver when he, sort of won it with 457 or 457.5, because that's too soft. So Ashot really focusing here. Well done. They really focused on that. So it gets him on his way. And I've got to say, it is the best crowd of the championships. The upper tiers are full, but it's not a hall that's designed for weightlifting. David Riggott, in charge of the Russians, just with his back to you. That's the situation in the anteroom. And here's the former Bulgarian, Said Jabasalem. And, well, this is a man who has been world champion, was world champion in 2001 when the championships were hastily reorganized to Antalya in Turkey. Total up 460. Was fourth in the Sydney Olympic Games, also total 460. Quite interesting, David, that in those early days when the Bulgarians were transferred across to Qatar, you know, the whole quite successful, but they've not been so successful in recent times. Because to put this into context, he was second to Rezazadeh in the recent Asian Championships, 422 to Rezazadeh's 460.
Yeah, but it's what we've sort of touched on throughout the whole championships, and what, you know, we've discussed many times. To be good at weightlifting, you need everything. You need the right genetics, you need the motivation, but you also need the backup. And they've probably got the genetics. They're probably fairly motivated, but whether or not they've got the backup here that they had in Bulgaria is another question.
But he's got the first one. But he surely can't lack motivation to be lifting on his own home stage, or adopted stage as it is now. So 195. Look at that, that's 5 kilos up on what he achieved in the Asian Games. So good start, but he is, at best, we'd be looking for 210. And if he really wants to take on Rezazadeh, he's got to absolutely, I think, get to 205. Now, Scerbatihs, real character. Victor Scerbatihs, the Olympic silver medalist, the world bronze medalist in 2003. And this his beginning. Again, he's a pretty consistent 200 man, 205. Representing Latvia, 31 years of age. Just under 140 kilos his weigh-in a couple of hours ago. I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, pretty solid start.
A good day for Scerbatihs. 196 kilos on the bar.
There's quite a lot of enthusiasm for strongman competitions and strong men altogether around the Baltic states, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia. Interestingly, a little message in from Mantas in Lithuania. I think he was as disappointed as we were with Vyšniauskas yesterday, but he pointed out that he's actually hosting the #1 TV show in Lithuania, so he was curious as to whether that had actually taken the edge off him, but can't really believe that it did.
Hosting the #1 TV show?
Yeah, it doesn't actually, Mantas doesn't actually say what the show is, but it's the most popular show in Lithuania. So tell us more. Celebrity Big Brother in Lithuania or something. Right.
The X Factor. Now he's going to have to work. He's really going to have to get that concentration that he had on that second attempt, which he does.
Well, that's good. So the first failure was really a decent wake-up call for him. The 196 does put him into the lead, but he's the heaviest, as I've emphasized 2 or 3 times, so in that regard he's up against it. 196. Nidek, who finished on 195. Kolokoltsev only got one in, he's on 185. Glushko disappointing on 187. But now, this for me is the dark horse if he's on form. Dark horse, maybe not for the goal, but for a, you know, a podium medal.
He's sort of in, you know, he's between a rock and a hard place, isn't he? Because he weighs 125 kilos, so he's 20 kilos too heavy for the 105 kilo class, but he's really too light for this class, and he's giving away 40 odd kilos to the man that was just on the stage, which is not an easy thing to do. But that's the most impressive lifting we've seen today.
And this is that's exactly what I was hoping for, David, because all too often I've seen him have a poor start and the confidence drains out of him and he doesn't get back into it. Now with 200 on the board, let's just hope he can build, because I think if he can, then, you know, it could be quite exciting. Because you're looking at the, you know, the world record's 213. I'm not suggesting he's going to get to 213, but the more men like him who now start putting their lifts in, the more it's going to push Rezazadeh.
Yeah, of course, the sad thing is that he on body weight in this class, he is easily the best lifter. But of course, as we mentioned with the women's super heavyweights, unfortunately, super heavyweight is super heavyweight.
But look at this absolute pandemonium. Iranian fans here are plenty. Not too many chances to see the big man. But here he comes for 201. The world and Olympic, and for good measure, the Asian champion. Sprightly stage. 20 seconds.
Just needs to get a move on.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him come on with a little bit more. Good as he is, champion as he is. This will just be unnecessarily rushed. Counting down.
Just a little look at the clock now. Tighten up.
So strong is this man that he can deal with that, but he shouldn't make a habit of it, even though he is.
No, the coaches need to really be on the ball. But I've got a sneaky suspicion that after getting that one on the board, he could be following himself. He could be just waiting now until all the others are finished.
He just is so impressive. 27 years of age, 164 kilos 60. He's the second heaviest. But he's, as you can see, the way that he sort of, you know, went up onto the stage. Athletic. So now, Qatar, 6 kilo increase. This is Jabbar beginning to go after him.
I have to say though that again, you know, the Bulgarians and the Qatar lifters, the ex-Bulgarians, they all look down. They all look kind of depressed. They're all walking onto the platform in the same kind of depressed, sort of subdued manner, and I haven't seen them like this before.
Yes, I think subdued is perhaps more accurate than depressed, because can't really tell how his mind is. But, you know, if he lifts this, he will take a big boost of confidence. Yeah, good. And that was better than the first.
That was good. Yeah, nice technique, good speed.
Now he must have 205 in his mind. This is where he's got to be careful. There's just, you know, if Rezazadeh is in the sort of form that I think he is, the danger for these guys is to chase too hard at the wrong moment. I mean, to a large extent, whatever they do, they're still hoping that there's a weakness in Rezazadeh. Now, Victor. Also going for 201. Now, Victor weighed in at 139.55, which means he's heavier than Jabbar. So he would go into third place.
Second place.
Going to second place, yes, because Rezazadeh's
heavy.
Yeah. Sorry. And again, an improvement.
Yes, he's got the confidence and the experience to just stay in that low position for as long as he needs.
Well, this is, you know, fingers crossed. This is beginning to unfold, David, as we would hope, which is, you know, good lifting. They're all lifting at the moment well within themselves. It just depends on who's going to make the first, you know, breakaway move. I think 205 is going to be a popular choice.
Well, I was going to say 202 has been called, but I'm sure that nobody wants 202. Snatches left in this men's super heavyweight final to decide the three medals.
For the snatch, which is only, of course, the halfway stage of the competition, but moving nicely. Look at Chigishev there, 125 kilos versus 164 kilos. Really isn't fair, is it? And as you said, David, the coaches have got to get their act together. You get away with it once at the lightweight, but, you know, as the bar goes up, you know, even though you are...
Well, he's out there ready now. Yeah. Sitting out there, you know, ready, waiting. I don't think anybody's going to come out. I think, well, Jabba's coming out.
Oh,
it's 203.
203. That surprises me. But he knows, so the coaches know what he's capable of. This 203, though, David, does represent a 13 kilo on his Asian Championship performance, so that's nothing to be sneezed at. But it leaves him 7 kilos short of his personal best. But they may, in their own way, have decided that overall silver is what they want, what they think they can get.
Well, maybe they're lifting to their abilities. You know, yeah. there is a certain weight that you can go to, and they believed that was the maximum that he could do. So I think they perhaps chose wisely.
Yeah, the disappointment for that, though, is it's 201. That's where he finishes.
Yes, so leaves him in second at the moment by virtue of lighter body weight, but of course there's still...
Interesting, though, Salam weighed in at 125.30. Chigishev 125.77. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Now Rezazadeh 205. So still Chigishev to come out, and he'll have 2 left. Scerbatihs has got 1. And assuming that Hossein picks this up, he'll have 1 to go after this. He's beginning to enjoy this.
Well, I think he thinks he's won it. I mean, no, he hasn't won the snatch yet.
No, he hasn't.
He is in first place, though.
No, but I think what I detected there, David, was a self-good feeling.
I'm on fire. I'm on fire. That's a phrase we've been using all week.
I think the thing that makes this man special for me, apart from his huge strength, is that, you know, he is fast. He does move the bar with speed.
Well, this is what I was saying when you were talking. You know, we were talking about who is the strongest athlete. Weightlifting is a power event. I mean, obviously you need to be immensely strong to stand up with these huge weights, but you need those fast twitch fibers as well.
So, to go into the lead on his last attempt, Victor Scerbatihs. Very important, because whatever happens, this will keep him in touch with the overall fight. So,
and put some pressure back on Rezazadeh as well.
Absolutely. So, for Latvia. Come on, Victor. That's a pity. That is a real pity, because he drops down on 201, and that leaves him down there with Jabba. Okay, so he's 4 kilos down now on Rezazadeh. 2 men left with lifts.
Yes, the fight now is between Rezazadeh and
the second heaviest.
Yes.
And the second lightest.
Second lightest.
Yeah.
But Rezazadeh only has 1 lift.
Chigishev has got to. Well, Chigishev's got to go 205. Got to go 205.
Got to go 205, yeah, because this would put him in. Wow.
209.
Put the pressure on. It's interesting, actually, because 5 would have put him into the lead on lighter body weight.
Yeah.
So he must feel confident about this, because actually this is. If he fouls it twice, it was a stupid move, because it was 4 kilos more than he needed to win the gold medal.
Yeah.
So perhaps he knows something that we don't. Perhaps he's got a world record in the back of his mind.
He's only got a 200, so he'd lose a bronze as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, he'd have no medal at all.
Yeah.
Whereas 205 would have put him straight into guaranteed silver and possible gold.
And keeps him closer in terms of the contact of kilos. Come on!
But he's got different ideas. Look at that.
Oh, fantastic. Yevgeny Chigishev, European silver medalist, 205 earlier this year in Sofia, now 209.
So what's Rezazadeh going to do? He's on fire.
He's got to go 210.
He's got to go 210 at least.
Yeah. Now, 213 is his own snatch world record. You know, I've got a feeling Chigishev, whatever's going to have a crack at something here.
There's a possibility. Maybe he's going to go for... Look at the speed. Maybe he's going to go for 214. Who knows? That would be something else, wouldn't it?
Well, it really would. That's about it's about as animated as he gets. Now, yeah, that tells you a lot about Chigishev's condition, because when you see David Riga like that, you know that these guys think the game's on. They have prepared for this. 210 it is. Russia versus
Chigishev's
Iran.
played it well, because he's made Rezazadeh come out and use his 3rd attempt up, which means that he knows that all he's got to do to take the gold medal
is 211.
210. No,
210. Yeah, absolutely.
But what he takes, well, where I think if Rezazadeh misses this, Chigishev will go for 214 for the world record. I think if he gets it, Chigishev will come out and do the 210 or try.
The tactics, because you got to think about the clean and jerk as well. Oh, he's not missed it. Asked and answered. Wonderful stuff, wonderful stuff. Hossein Rezazadeh, but
it's not over,
and we're only still in the first half. So now the situation is that he has a 1 kilo advantage over Yevgeny Chigishev. But now, the man who's got 3 out of 3, the man who's looking to defend his title, of course. World champion in Vancouver, world champion before that in Poland. Asian champion, double Olympic champion. He's very good, actually, Rezazadeh, because he does contend, he does appear, he does defend, you know. Of course, that's what people want. They want to see champions. So Chigishev.
Well, this would be
head or heart.
Phenomenal.
211. So 211, which is arguably, because he's lighter than Rezazadeh, worth 212. Well, can he do 2 extra kilos? If he does, this is 6 kilos up on what he did in Europe.
Well, this is David and Goliath, isn't it?
It'll look over there at the clock. Settles down. Has got to put Rezazadeh out of his mind. He's got to focus on what he has to do. Great speed.
Needs to hold, needs to hold.
Oh, so good. Would you give that?
Oh, definitely. Superb.
Good lift. Rezazadeh, only second. Interestingly enough, he was only second in Vancouver, but this is a different fight. A totally different fight. So Yevgeny Chigishev, who weighed in at 125.77 kilos, produces 3 exemplary snatch efforts there and takes his personal best to 211 and a 1 kilo advantage over Hossein Rezazadeh. And those two men are steamed away from the rest, because the rest are left on, as you can see, 201 and less. So Russia lead Iran, then Qatar, but Qatar are 9 kilos behind the Olympic champion Scerbatihs. Like they're now facing possibly a fight between themselves for the bronze medal, to let Chigishev and Rezazadeh fight it out amongst themselves. But Chigishev, well, can he do in the clean and jerk what he's just delivered in the snatch? Because he tends to be a man around 240, 242, whereas Rezazadeh is consistently 250 and more. Well, cracking first half to this final championship. We'll be back for more after this. Currently, Jabber for Qatar, former world champion. Now, he did try for 203, David, but in fact, this was the lift that he counts towards the second half. It was as good as it gets, and as I think we said, he's not on fire in the same way that Rezazadeh and Chigishev are, which I guess is disappointing for him, disappointing for the home crowd.
I think he knows his form, though. You know your form before you go into this competition, and you know that you know the form of the others, and sometimes it could be a bit demoralising. But that was a good lift.
Yeah, I thought he'd actually go on from there. I really did think he'd go on. I was surprised to see him come for 203. I thought he'd go for 205. But as we said, you judge your own level. But the fact that he didn't get the 203 has not helped his cause one little bit. He's...
Yes, I mean, in hindsight, it's made no difference to the snatch medal, but it could make a difference. That extra couple of kilos could have been all he needed to perhaps come back a bit further in the clean and jerk.
Yeah, because I think Scerbatihs, you know, who's also on 201 and he's heavier. Scerbatihs might have him on the clean and jerk. Anyway, moving on to the Titanic Tussle. So Hossein Rezazadeh, 201 as an opener. Rushed onto the stage, but no problems. 205, things going his way. And then, as a result of a 209 by Chigishev, going for this, his third and final attempt at 210. And that's 10 kilos up on what he did in the Asian Championships, and pretty happy with that. I mean, I can understand that, David, because he's very confident about what he can do in the clean and jerk. I mean, he can destroy a field with the clean and jerk.
Well, he's got the size, and the man who's going to come on in just a moment and take the gold medal on the snatch away from him doesn't have the size, and that's where it's going to reflect. It's going to reflect in the clean and jerk.
And it's quite interesting because you can see the number of Iranian fans are here, and there's a sort of adoration. You see it in sumo in Japan for the big guys as well, and he's got that sort of adoration, you know. And he makes things happen. He makes halls come alive, you know. But if you thought it was all over, it wasn't, and it isn't. This is only the halfway stage, but what a good first half. And Yevgeny Chigishev looking in the form of his life, already with a PB with his second lift of 209.
Now I can understand. The crowd were for Rezazadeh were booing, and he was kind of going, no, 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 and Riggott was going, forget about that, get on with the job in hand.
So 211 for a lifetime best and a kilo lead over the big guy. And this is not only strength, this is desire.
Yes, David Riggott, an experienced athlete with an interesting past. Many stories about the man coaching Chigishev. In fact, one of the most famous stories about David Riggott was that he was in a bar. He was on squad training and he'd gone off to a bar, which you're not supposed to do. Unhappy with his training performance, got really drunk, asked to leave the bar, refused. Allegedly, yeah. Half an hour later, 6 policemen turned up, and there was a tussle, and I think 4 of them ended up in hospital, and he ended up in jail for 6 months. Allegedly. And I think they allowed him to train. 3 months after he came out, out of jail, he won the World Championship. But he was always known as a sort of hard man of weightlifting. You know, he used to sort of take the tops off bottles with his teeth, you know, and being in a fight every other week, and he never ever let his training get in the way of his vodka drinking. But that's another story.
Reminds me of another little story about a different Russian.
Yes, 220 kilos just for a warm-up.
Promise you, this is the last one. When we come back, we'll be underway. Welcome back. One man has lifted. That's Kolokotsev of the Ukraine, 226. So we are just underway. And this is the Egyptian 19-year-old Mohammed Ehsan. Actually, very quickly, I was telling you about this story. This was a diver, Russian, and they were on the World Cup tour in America, went to Florida, and then they had a whole month over in California. And what they decided to do was to have a competition over there, and they had the competition, and then they had a party. But what nobody knew was that this particular Russian diver had been taking karate courses all through the month that he was there. And he did that thing that I guess we've all done, which is you go up to your hotel room and then realise you left your key downstairs. But he was a little worse for wear, shall we say, than the party, and he couldn't actually be bothered about that. So they found him lying on the door to his room. And when they managed to sober him up and he explained that he karate chopped the door down, they didn't actually believe him. The management didn't believe him, so he took him across the corridor and he did another door and they sent him home.
Guys don't karate chop doors, they walk through them. So you can see the bend on that bar now. So success there on 230 to go with his 190 that he eventually snatched, puts him on 420. So for a 19-year-old, beginning of his career, it's a pretty good start. $230 kilos, already in excess of 500 pounds. No one's actually clean and jerked 600 pounds yet. That would be 272.5 kilos. So we're around 10 kilos off of that at the moment, but hopefully at some point someone like Rezazadeh will break the 600-pound barrier.
Here's an interesting thought, David, that came in overnight. It's a question, really. So, except for the super heavyweights, all lifters lift near their maximum. This is from Stephen, near the maximum weight for their categories. Except for the super heavyweights, all the lifters lift near the maximum for their weight categories. The struggle to keep their weight down, I suppose this means that, you know, prior to the competition they don't eat foods such as steaks, which would increase their weight. However, such foods would obviously also increase their strength. So what Stephen's wondering is how long before the competition the weigh-in takes place, which, as we know, is 2 hours. He's saying, why not make it 48 hours so they could gorge themselves and become strong again?
Well, I think is that what would happen there is kind of what happens now. People take things to extremes, so people will at the moment train between 2 and 6 kilos overweight. They'll lose that through dehydration, sauna, getting, you know, losing body fat nearer the competition. And I think all that would happen is that if you put the weigh in sort of 48 hours before, people would end up coming down more weight because they'd have more time to put it on. So I think the main thing here is that everything's equal. I mean, it wouldn't matter if you wanted to make it 48 hours before. Make it 48 hours before, but it kind of would make no difference. The main thing is that everybody weighs in either 48 hours before, 2 hours before, or 1 hour before, and that it's the same for everybody. I mean, that's the important thing. And some athletes are prepared to lose more, you know, more weight than others. Some of the flyweights, or you know, some of the bantamweights rather, I've seen them sit in the sauna, you know, for hours the day before dehydrating.
I think his point, though, is, you know, if you do weigh in, as they do, 2 hours before for the, you know, the majority, except the super heavies, you know, you're actually, you know, weakening yourself at the moment.
Well, yeah, but you could kind of, if you want to flip the argument on its head, you know, you could say, well, one of the reasons they do it in weightlifting is so that people don't lose excessive amounts, because if you do lose too much, it will adversely affect your performance. And I think by bringing the weigh-in closer to the competition, it actually encourages people to lose less. So if you actually took it away, it would encourage people to, you know, further away. It would encourage people to lose more. So I think it's probably better having it closer. People are encouraged to lose less weight because of the, you know, the effect on the performance.
Hungry old day, though, when you only compete at 8 o'clock at night.
Oh yes, tell me about it. I've done it.
Poland.
Yes, generally more comfortable in the clean and jerk.
Yeah, good strong arms overhead. He looks in good sorts with himself, actually. 233. The bar.
It's on 420 because he only snatched 187.5, so he's giving a lot away in the first phase.
187, no 0.5.
187, that's right. New rulings. Old habits die hard, David.
I know. What at your age? You are in the Masters now. So Kolokoltsev, this was the man who opened up on 226. Well, some of these men will be back here next year for the Asian Games. They've got a dress rehearsal of that starting in December here, the West Asia Games. Slightly constructed to just check out all the facilities. The Asian Games is, well, almost as big an undertaking as staging the Olympic Games, so quite a challenge for Doha. You know, lots of new construction, a lot of importation of, well, television equipment amongst other things. So Kolokoltsev.
Yes, disappointing in the snatch. Only managed 185. Well, let's hope he can do better.
Yeah, just looking at the stats though, and where he is, David, he's 95, 240, 435 with his last World Championship stats. That was 2 years ago in Vancouver, and he's going to have to do some work to get up there.
And that looks heavy. No.
No,
the clean was all wrong. And I bet the referee's glad that there's that wooden stop there.
Yeah, the Ukraine, another nation which you have to look at the performance of their athletes out here at the Worlds and slightly wonder they're not blazing a path.
Well, generally speaking, this championship, the men are actually down on their performances. The women are up.
Yeah.
And this is because women's weightlifting is in its infancy. Of course, when I say it's in its infancy, I mean, I know it's been around a long time, but in terms of you know, being included in the Olympic Games, which I think has been a huge factor in you know, in the improvement of women's weightlifting over the last few years.
That's interesting. Chigishev, halfway leader.
Yes, being coached by the winner of, or helped by the winner of yesterday's competition.
Yeah, the Russians are going to have a lot to say about the future of this sport. Dmitry Klokov it was who won yesterday. So 2:35 for third and final time. This is the last opportunity. So this would be what, 4:20?
4:20, yeah. Well, no, he's got.
We have 1:08.
Oh, he's done 1:26 on his opener. That's right. This is the guy that we missed during the break, isn't it? So he's taken a 9 kilo jump. So he's got a total.
Silence, please.
Yeah, this would be 4:11. Sorry, what am I talking about? 4:11. This is a 1:85 and a 2:26.
Yes, but this. No, but you were right because you were going on the.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's horrible when that happens. Bar pushing across the windpipe, blocking off the oxygen supply, and no one rushes forward to make sure he doesn't fall over. But he seems to have recovered now. Yes, so 2:35 proving much today. And you're right, he finishes on 4:11. I'm not quite sure where he is.
So Glushko of Russia. Well, what a difference between the two Russians. This man only bringing forward 187 kilos, only got one of the 3 snatch attempts. So up against it as well. Well, he's animated enough, but although he's got the lift, I don't find him terribly convincing. .424. No.
We snatched 187, didn't he?
Yeah, 424.
Yeah.
424. I am right. Now, clearly, this young man would appear to prefer the clean and jerk to the snatch phase. I could understand that.
.30 seconds.
Giving away 8 years and 16 to Rezazadeh. I think it's the 8 years which are the big difference rather than the kilos. That's not too bad.
That's good. Yeah, solid in the second phase.
Yeah, he's much more comfortable here. 2:38. Nice increase, and now really is making a bit of an impression, David, because
well, he's on 4:28, isn't he now? So
yeah. 4:28. Just looking at the sort of progress. I mean, back in 2003 at the World Championships, okay, it's a couple of years, but that's now 38, 28, so he's 28 kilos up on that. Now Nidek didn't catch the bars there. Is it still on 230?
I think it's probably gone up a kilo.
Yeah.
I think we're on 239.
He's using all his experience now. That's, you know, again, that's good to see. 238.
238.
Yeah, no, it stayed the same.
238.
That's a 5 kilo increase. Now he's just, you know, in his time when he won the world title in Antalya 4 years ago, I mean, he did actually clean and jerk 250. Now he's obviously not going to get there today, but I think he's just trying to look on the totals. Where's he? He's just too far away, isn't he, from the others?
Yes, it's the snatch phase.
You know, 187, and it puts him, you know, what, 4 kilos behind Scerbatihs, 4 kilos behind Jabba, and of course he's used up 2 of his 3 attempts. So
here is Jabba.
You'd have to say for Nidek, he's got a choice. I mean, he can sit and wait now. He could sit and wait and see what happens for the next, you know, 5 or 6 minutes with the next few lists. Maybe Jabba comes out, maybe Scerbatihs comes out, and he just has a look at them, which would probably be wise on their first attempts before deciding with his coach whether they wanted to use that 3rd attempt up. Because if either of these two, him or Scerbatihs, were to wobble, that would be the one possibility for Nidek, but it's a very, very thin possibility. So Jabba trying to regain the world title, but already on the back foot. Well, that was a pretty straightforward opener there.
Just remember, Jabba has actually made an attempt at the world record. He tried 263 kilos, cleaned it, and just missed the jerk. So he's been up around some pretty big kiloage in his time.
So the halfway leader, Chigishev, 240. Now remember, he's got a 10 kilo advantage over Jabba from the halfway stage from the snatch. That could be very, very important.
I think it's almost certainly going to be crucial.
Chigishev starting off 2.5 kilos below what he finished on in the Europeans last April. Good strong clean, but the bar looking quite heavy.
Well, it's total on the board, but as you say, I think Rezazadeh's confidence after that last snatch was more in regards to the overall. We know how strong he is in the clean and jerk, and that's the extra body weight. You see, this man, powerful, but and that power showing in the snatch phase. Very good speed strength, but on the clean and jerk, power's not enough. You need to be supremely strong, and that extra body weight that Rezazadeh has gives him that added strength because of the extra muscle bulk.
451 though is his total, and the Europeans weighed in at 121 kilos, today at 125, so he's gained a little weight, Chigishev, which is obviously, you know, it helps. So 241 for Ashot Danielin. So this is a healthy increase, 9 kilos. you could almost, he was really trying to psych himself into that, and you could see all the way through there was that sort of...
Well, there's a bit of a limp.
Yeah,
I think he's got a problem with his right knee or hip, and if you have got a problem, then it's really tough to kind of ignore it, and sometimes it's not wise to ignore it. Sometimes it's better to live to fight another day.
Just want to reflect back to the Chigishev first lift. Good choice of weight. Good choice. Got it dead on. So, Jabba, Salem, Saeed, Jabba Salem.
Yes, of course, Rezazadeh not up there because...
hasn't started.
No, hasn't come into the competition yet.
Not in a clean and jerk, but of course...
But I don't think we'll see him until the bar gets to around 250, unless something happens between now and then. I mean, I don't think he's going to come in at more weight than he needs.
Well, originally he put down 240, but he's obviously, you know, happy with the way things are going. He's happy with himself, which is the most important thing. So, you know, he's probably, you know, he might be thinking now maybe 245. I mean, you know, it's exactly what I said. You know, it's like Nidek now had a look at Chigishev. How much further might he go from 240? You see, the 240, he did 242.5 in Europe. You would think possibly, after having watched him in the snatch, that he would, you know, might be capable of adding another 5 kilos to 247, 248. But
I think he's probably capable of about 245, which means that Rezazadeh would have to do 247. Because it's a kilo down and body weight. And I think that's the game Chigishev's going to have to play, because I think Rezazadeh will wait.
Well, this is a man who's also dangerous to Chigishev in terms of overall placing, because Scerbatihs in the clean and jerk, opening up here. And this is a 250, a proven 250 man.
But not looking quite so good today.
You know that moment when you just regret saying what you just said?
But he's still a proven 250 man.
But that was poor.
Yeah. But it's so much about... I mean, that's one of the things, though, that makes any sport, exciting. You know, if everybody just did what was written down on the piece of paper, they might as well send in the result and have the medal sent out. I mean, the thing is, it's the drama of the day, what happens to you in the preparation. So Rezazadeh there with 180 kilos, just warming up. So he certainly won't be coming in for quite a few lifts yet, because we're only on 180 kilos here.
Which makes me think, David, he's going to have a crack at something.
Well, we haven't, in this World Championship, we short of world records, but it's been all women. So to actually, on the last day, finish off with a world... I mean, he was only 3 kilos behind his world record in the snatch, and he looked as if he could have done more if he'd had an extra attempt. And I think what's going to happen here, I mean, is that he's going to win the competition on his first clean and jerk, which you know, makes it slightly boring from a composition viewpoint, but it makes it interesting because it then takes the pressure off of him. And if he is feeling good, it gives him the opportunity to jump to a world record and get 2 goes at it.
I've got a feeling that he's after a clean and jerk world record and a total world record. So if we can't have if it turns out that nobody can match him, ooh, well, that's a bit too much reorganisation for my liking.
Well, he was good in the second phase, but it just depends how much this is. And I think he's getting dizzy now.
Yeah,
struggling to. No, when that starts happening, you're in trouble. And as you say, that clean was hard, but let's give him some credit. He didn't give up on it. He gave it his best.
So he finishes with a 238 and a 190.
428, so 28 kilo over his previous
World Championship
Best.
performance, yeah. Not quite his world, because ironically, in the same year as the Senior World Championship, when he won the junior title, he actually lifted 5 kilos more, so he's 23 kilos up actually on his all-time best. But he's going to improve at 19. Now, Victor.
Gone up a kilo. So they're falling away a bit in the clean and jerk.
I remember Nidek is sitting there.
Yeah, sitting there waiting, seeing what he needs for the...
Scerbatihs and Jabber are the two men he's got to keep an eye on. He's got to hope that both falter. One faltering doesn't help him. Both have got to falter.
Well, of course, Chigishev still got a couple of attempts as well. So Scerbatihs needs this for a total.
Oh, well, that was totally different. Exhale and push.
Well, he's got a problem as well. So a couple of injuries.
So that gives him 444, all the fours.
That's the trouble as well. When the weights are this big, you just do one thing wrong technically, you lose your focus for a second, and it's so easy to pull something, or tear a muscle, or pull a ligament.
So Scerbatihs, first man to 243, takes the lead, but still a long way to go.
Stop the clock, please. Scerbatihs is going up.
240 kilos.
245.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting now, because this is, for some, this is going to be breaking point.
Yes, it'll be the reds and a green on each end now. Yes, he had to work very, very hard on his opener.
Yeah, Glushko, that's a 8 kilo increase. And once again, the clean is quite hard. And just doesn't have the strength.
No, not able to get that to arm's length.
So we've got Jabber with 2 lifts to go, Chigishev with 2 lifts to go, Rezazadeh, of course, with 3. Scerbatihs has got 1 more. Pavel Nidek just waiting. He's going to have 1 glory attempt, I think. Weighed in at 138 kilos. Makes him slightly lighter than Scerbatihs, but he is heavier than Jabber. So, not wishing Jabber any harm, but I guess Nidek is hoping that he runs into a problem here. Because looking at this, yeah, well, that's made Nidek's quest a whole lot harder now. 245, and he takes over the advantage from Scerbatihs.
but really he's fighting it out for the bronze, really.
Yes, he is, and he's beginning to edge it, because he's now got a 2 kilo advantage and a body weight advantage over Scerbatihs. So the Latvian's got to choose very carefully, and here's Nidek, 245. This is what I thought he was going to do. This is where I thought he was going to wait for. But you know, sadly, in his case, just 187 to add to it if he is successful. But this would be a good achievement, be a decent total.
Oh, well, it was a good effort.
Yeah, it was a really good effort, because he wasn't that far away. You know that there are days when he can lift that. But you know, he missed out on those extra 3 kilos in the snatch. He's missed out on the extra 7 kilos here. Those extra 10 kilos would have put him, you know, there or thereabouts in that bronze medal fight, but not to be. But I think he's acquitted himself respectably today, Nidek. Now, if he gets this, David, I owe you a beer. Unfortunately, not in Doha, because it's not possible.
I knew there'd be one. I knew there'd be a way of getting out of it.
What do they say? Oh, I'll buy you one on the plane. Because that's becoming a reality now with all the low frill airlines, isn't it? Come on, Mr. Glushko. Last. No, not to be. I've just saved myself a beer. So really now coming into the very final stage of the very final competition of the Centennial World Championships. In terms of lifting, David, a pretty good championship. As I say, the honours definitely go overall to the women's competitions, but this is a fine finale, and it could be even finer now. But 245, the second attempt for Chigishev.
No, he's gone up to 246.
Oh, 246. Well, and Rezazadeh yet to start, but he must get this to stand any chance of putting pressure on Rezazadeh. And that's good. Some support here in the hall.
I think it's because Rezazadeh just walked out and sat down on the chair. I don't think it's anything to do with this man.
Well, that is a better clean for me. Now, has he got the strength overhead? Come on! Come on! I'd give him that.
Personal best. Yes. 57.
So
they're not being very sporty.
No.
The crowd. I don't like to see that. It annoys me. I don't like it. We saw it once in Turkey, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it wasn't good.
Well, I can think back to the World Championships in 1994. You wouldn't have. That was in Istanbul. If you weren't Turkish, you wouldn't have wanted to be lifting on that stage. I mean, it was positively hostile. But to be fair, the sportsmanship has improved a lot over the years. Just the occasional moment, and yeah, I think what they should be doing is they should be really applauding. Look at this man, 125 kilos, and he's outlifting the field. 246. 5 out of 5. Well, he needs 250, doesn't he?
I think he needs 250. That would leave Rezazadeh needing 252 to beat him. So Rezazadeh still warming up. Look, I think he's on 230 now, though. I can't see from this angle, but I'm sure he's added another 25 to each end.
But he's a good boy. He doesn't take anything for granted. He goes through the routine. He works everything through. He knows there's a championship to be won. You can't imagine how gutted he would be to lose the World Championship title. Team Rezazadeh.
Well, he's been caught out slightly again, though. If he's actually got to go out now, he just did his last warm-up. He's going to end up having to rush again.
And it just shows you, when you have a superstar, just how it can pull the crowd in. Now Scerbatihs. Last throw of his dice. Bar on 250. So this is for 451. Whatever happens, that 206 of Chigishev has surely secured him the overall silver medal. I can't see Rezazadeh, not Rezazadeh, Jabba doing anything about that.
So this man fighting back.
No, it's not to be.
No lift.
So leaves him on 444. So that bronze medal is really gone. It's gone Jabba's way. He's got a 201 and he's got a 245, so he's got 440, got 446. So Scerbatihs' opportunity is lost, and maybe he hasn't looked the part, but there's the man who is the overall bronze medalist. Got one more go at it. But knowing that he can't compete with Rezazadeh, knowing he can't fight Chigishev, but he's done the best he can, and he's been quiet about it. Not terribly demonstrative, but he's delivered Qatar a super heavyweight bronze medal.
That's weird, that is, that little thing. Have you seen that little thing? It's about the size of a credit card, and there's a guy that pulls it out of his pocket and then puts it under Rezazadeh's nose, and then kind of pulls it up over his face and over his head and over the back of his head. And he always does it, and it's not smelling salts, because he just had the smelling salts while he was sitting on the chair. And I've noticed him doing that. I don't know if it's some kind of, I don't know, something religious or just one of his little sort of idiosyncrasies, but I've noticed it every time.
So this 251 would give Rezazadeh a running total of 261. And of course, Chigishev's got 457.
Well, it wasn't easy to work. Well, I'll tell you what, if Chigishev could come out and do that 251, Rezazadeh in the second phase there was not as convincing as we've seen him in the past.
So Chigishev, well, he's got to come out and do 251 to give himself 462. And that would mean that Rezazadeh would have to go 463 to take it off him. So that would push
453, yeah.
463.
No, 450. If he does 251.
Well,
oh, the total, yeah.
Total,
yeah,
yes.
of course, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Now, can he do the perfect sequence of 6 out of 6? This is a lifetime best competition for him. He's come in here wonderfully prepared. And, of course, this is really the lift that we want him to do, to force Rezazadeh.
Put Rezazadeh under, because Rezazadeh's never really been under pressure.
Now, come on, he says, and rightly so. This is my stage, give me my time. You can have your boy back in a minute, but give me my time. And he deserves respect. So at 125 kilos, this is Yevgeny Chigishev, 26 years of age for Russia, to regain the lead if he can pick this up.
They're not giving him silence. It's not right.
No, and the public address speaker isn't actually helping him because they're not asking for it either. So not easy conditions.
He limped off after the 2:46.
But it is a lifetime best. He is the overall super heavyweight silver medalist. It's been a terrific display of weightlifting by Yevgeny Chigishev. And just a pity he couldn't just go that little bit further. He finishes on 4:57, which means that Rezazadeh at the moment has a 4-kilo advantage. And now, David, the big question. What is Rezazadeh prepared to do? Is he prepared to give us a show? I mean, to finish on 4:61 is a little, well, it's a little better than Vancouver when he won it with 4:57.2.
2:64 he needs for the world record. So
he's got to go. Yeah, he's got to go. Well, 2:63, waste of time. Come on, 2:64.
Well, I thought the world record was 2:60.
Well, I thought
2:63.
Yeah, 2:63.
So we need to go for 2:64. Maybe it's a graphics thing again.
Yeah. Yeah, there'd be no point in coming out for 2:63.
Ah, no, there is a point actually. The total record, because remember it was 2:72 and a half, and because of the new 1 kilo rule, so this would actually be a new total record.
Oh, what you mean? So he goes for.
Well, the total record was 4:72 and a half because of the half. So this would be 4:73, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but come on. Yeah, put another kilo on, and you know.
Well, he's got another attempt after this. So.
Well, I know, but even so. Yeah, I mean, 63, 2:64. And now they're even trying to calm the crowd down now to let him focus and concentrate. Of course, there is a $10,000 bonus. That will not have gone amiss. The coaches will be well aware of that. He's a pretty wealthy young man, Hossein Rezazadeh, because of his exploits in this sport, but nonetheless, it's there to be taken. But he has got one more attempt at it. And it just goes to show you, David, what might have Chigishev could have lifted that last lift. And that will not be lost on the Russian.
No, well, I could see that he wasn't looking comfortable in the second phase on the first with 2:51. So if he's going to do this, he's going to have to get it. He's going to have to find a little bit more and get it just right. You see, to do the magic 500, he'd need to snatch 225, and he'd need to jerk 275. So he's got a way to go, and he hasn't improved for a couple of years now.
No. You know, 460 winning the Asian title this year. World Championships 457 and a half. The Olympics, well, the Olympics in Athens, to be fair, 472 and a half.
I think he's finished.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to try again.
I think he's absolutely decided to call it a day. No, he wouldn't have gone back this far. Come out. Everybody wants that one encore lift. Just look at those eyes, though, David. All those men, women, young girls, young boys, they really, really like this. He does something for them. He makes them proud. but it's not to be. Kisses means it's over. And it is over, David. It's been 10 days of really exciting lifting, good competitive sport here.